Hey guys, how y'all doing? My name is Kieran, and this is Fox Off RPG. So today we're going to be doing a review. It's going to be of Wicked Witch of the Woods. This is by Runeforged Tabletop Gaming. William Hirschman. I'm sure most of you guys know. He is a YouTuber, and he's also been creating Shadowdark content. This is a one-shot adventure, but it's also, in my opinion, a good little introductory adventure, as well as a setup for possible future games in the world. This is one thing I really like that William does, is at the end of the books, he gives you ideas of what could be done to continue on from this point. I think it's a great point for new players, in particular, who've never played before. And of course, it's going to be Halloween themed, which is a great idea to have in October anyway, because people love that sort of stuff. So before we get into the video, I just want to again thank everyone for checking out the videos out. As always, it's amazing when you guys leave like, comment, subscribe. It helps out the channel massively. And I will leave my links down below, where you can get if you want to get anything on drive-thru or anything like that, or follow me on X, Discord group, and all that stuff. Also, one other thing is that this was sent to me by William himself. So I was after ordering a bunch of stuff on drive-thru, and then like 3 days later this came out in print. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get it on my next set of stuff. Then a few days later William messaged me asking me, do I want a copy, and send it to me. I was like, no, don't worry, I'll pick it up. And he's like, I can send you out, no worries. I was like, are you sure? He said, yeah. And I said, okay. So I actually did play this before I even had the hard copy. I used the PDF and I went well. Had fun. Yeah, so we're going to go over what's actually in this. I'm not going to cover every single little thing, like when it comes to like the rooms and all I'll be looking at. I'll look at a couple of rooms so you get an idea what's going on. But overall, I really like this. Again, it's great for new players, and it's that time of the year. It's also going to be good for, like I said, for setting up follow-up adventures. Again, it's going to be a little introductory. It's meant for 1 to 6 players, level 1. It's going to be run from 2 to 4 hours. Depending on how used to role-playing and adventuring. If you have a bunch of brand new people, it might take a little longer. Or they might be silly and just run head in first. And, bad things can happen. Which, there's always one guy. Especially with new people. So yeah, you're going to talk about adventure hook here. So the whole hook of this is you have to arrive in this little town, or maybe you have heard rumors from around the area. Maybe this little village is nearby another town or city, and you've come across this on the way, or there's a notice board or something out there in the wild. Out in the notice, there's a notice board with information on a missing child. So you come over here, and then you're going to do your little investigation, which is going to be just talking to some of the NPCs. So here's the little area. You see it's going to be a small little village. You're going to have your chapel. You're going to have this stag and stein. It's like an inn. You'll have a few NPCs around you can interact with, or the players can interact with, I mean. And yeah, and it does also give a little bit of background details. You don't really need to know this stuff right now. This is more GM facing stuff. It just talks about some of the stuff you're going to find later on. Again, session length. There is a witch in this, if you couldn't tell from the cover and the name. But the whole idea of the witch is that she can come back at any time. So what I would do if you had a bunch of noisy players when they're investigating the building, the witch's cottage, I would definitely have the witch come home quicker. I would increase the amount of the chance of random encounters inside the cottage as well, if they're being really noisy. Because when you're inside the cottage, there is a chance of random encounters. It's a 1 or 2. So you roll a d6 on a 1 or 2, you're going to have an encounter, or you can have it as a 5 or 6, whatever way. There's still a 1/3 chance you're going to have an encounter. But if you have noisy players, I would increase that. And that's going to help them learn, especially if they're all brand new and they don't really know what they're doing. Again, difficulty, if you're finding things too difficult, or you think your players will find things too difficult, you can allow them to increase their maximum HP, the maximum amount, stuff like that. I generally don't like to do that. I generally like to make my things a little harder. So sometimes if I find if the players are getting by too easy, I will increase the hit dice or hit points, depending on what it is, because it might increase by like 4 or 5 hit points, or it might be a whole die, depending on what's going on. This can also depend on what kind of classes they have, because if you kind of let people play with whatever, because it's going to be just basically a one shot, but it can be used as a springboard. They might try and find some classes which might be a bit more powerful. Again, you're going to have Franz. He's the huntsman. He is the father of the missing son you're going to try and find, but he's not here at the moment. He's away out on a hunt. You're going to have Sister Dorothea. She can come along if there's a low player count, so she can come along with the party as like they're essentially their cleric. Here we go. Here we have the we said before, you're going to have the home, the chapel, the inn, and the edge of the forest clearing. Now, once you talk to some people and the mother, you'll find out where the child was last seen. You're going to find the footsteps, and some of the characters might give the players, example, like some rations and some torches. But again, your players should have that anyway, and if they don't, I would maybe don't give it to them, and then they will learn from their mistakes. This is, again, especially this is going to be for new people. It's all about learning opportunities. That's just me. Of course, you guys can do what you want. Like Sister Dorothy, like I said, she might give holy water, rations from Otto, and the torch. Otto is going to be the innkeeper. All this is going to depend on how much they want to interact with this little village. And then the witch's cottage. So just talk about the exterior on the next page. So we do have the witch's cottage here, and then it does have the exterior, and then it goes into each of the rooms. So you get an outline of what the witch's cottage is. It's really well designed. Again, just like the map here, it looks really well. 1 to 9 areas here, random encounters, what they are. Mudward wakes up and arrives in D1 at 1d4 rounds. So this will be described in here as well. He's a dim-witted goblin. You serious anti-hero? If you couldn't tell, this is going to be very reminiscent of Hansel and Gretel, which I do like. It's quite fun. You could also have random animated puppets, hungry bats, or hungry rats. So it has n, but it has n multiplied by 2 here. So if you had 4 players, you would then have 8 hungry bats or hungry rats. If you have 4 players, you're going to have 4 animated puppets, and you only have 1 mugwort because that's an individual. It gives all the stats here for all the creatures from the get-go, and it says it's well lit unless noted otherwise. Personally, I had the kitchen, the parlor well lit, and the quiet room. Again, it will give descriptions, pretty good descriptions actually, of what's in the rooms, what things look like, the feel of everything. It talks about the cottage exterior. The cottage itself can only be harmed by powerful magic, so there's something about this cottage which is innately magical. Maybe it's a curse or something in here. This is something the players, or you can explore in further games if you want to go that route, because again, like I said, it does give opportunities to continue from this point at the end for future missions and quests, which I do like. Again, that's something that William does, which I think it's such a simple thing, but then it can inspire you to create or continue from the same point you just finished off the game. I can make one-shots and other adventures into something more, which, that's always good because you're getting more value for what you're paying. Again, this is cheap anyway. If you just want the PDFs, and the print on demand copy is very cheap. I think it's like 24 pages anyway. I think it's good. It's very fun. I do like the cursed puppets. I think they're kind of fun. Yeah, animated puppets, because you can sort of role play a bit if you're DM, So then you're gonna have the cottage, like I said, on the outside. You can investigate things, and you can find the windows are locked. So you can try and open them for a DC check of intelligence or dexterity. If a failure results in a loud noise and a roll to see if there's an encounter. And again, if they make too much noise, I would definitely bring the witch back in earlier, because it does say at the beginning the witch can show up at any time. I'm going to read just maybe 3 or so of the entries throughout this here. So we have the parlor. This is going to be where you enter in from the most part, unless your players decide to try and break in from another way or whatever. Maybe you won't allow them. Maybe it's the magic resistance of the building that prevents that. You know, that's up to you guys. How you run your games. You're gonna have the fireplace again. That's gonna be the light source for this room. It has remains of childlike sized shoes. There's gonna be a chair knocked over with a leg snapped, a plate covered in pie crumbs that smell a little too sweet. If eaten, a DC Con 15 check, or if you fail, you fall into a nightmare-fueled slumber for 1d4 rounds. So how maybe I would do that is have your players go unconscious, but then they start making a lot of noise, like almost like they're having a seizure. They're causing a lot of noise and stuff being rustled around, and that could cause more encounters, and again increase the possibility of the witch coming home sooner. So you know, you kind of get one going with this stuff. So you have these wooden dolls, which are going to obviously be the animated dolls. And it talks about you can cover them up so they can't basically track you. And rolls of 1 or 2, you will then have an encounter. Again, that's going to go back to the encounter chart. Anyway, like we talked about. Where is it? Here. Again, as a DM, you can adjust anything and everything within a game, no matter what. You increase hit dice, you increase hit points, AC, or decrease. Again, up to you guys. Any attack made to destroy the dolls result in damage taken to attacker. So the way I imagine that is, so I come around with my axe, I smack it, and the curse or hex that's within these puppets basically explodes and splinters come out. So maybe hit you in the face or in the hand or your arm or something like that. Okay. Now there is 1 or 2 traps in here. I do like traps. Traps are fun. I just like traps. It's like, you know, the old school mentality. Traps. You don't want to have them everywhere all the time, but they can be fun. Like in the fire here is quite interesting. There's a broken clock. If you enter the quiet room, there is a brass cog. You can then put that into the clock. It does require an intelligence check. And if it is done correctly, you will then gain double speed for an hour. Which is, you know, okay, that's good. You're going to have a pit trap under the rug. Again, it's going to be a DC 12 dexterity check to not fall into it and take damage. And if you do, it's going to be a DC strength check to get out. Of course, you can use rope and stuff like that, which is going to help. We have the kitchen as well, the pantry, the quiet room. Again, and what I do like is these things do show up here again, like the more stats we previously had on the other page. This is great because it then makes it less flipping back and forward, which is always good. I know that's something that William talks about that he likes, is when you have stuff on the page where it's noted. So we're in Mugward's quarters, maybe if we're in there we end up waking him up or something like that. I was like, okay, well, instead of having you go back, I'm just going to put it here, which I appreciate that as well. Some people don't mind flipping back up a couple pages, but if you get into bigger books in bigger areas or more detail, then I much rather this. With this size book, I think it's fine just having them here, but you know, it's not a big deal. It's always appreciated. You have the kitchen here. There's going to be a bunch of stuff in here. You're going to have a non-magical book, Auntie's apple pie. You know, you can sort of play around with that. What that kind of effect is it just going to be make a nice ration that maybe you can sell later on, or is there something malevolent about this recipe? Maybe that pie is a sweet meat pie or something like that, and the meat is of children. That's why it's so sweet. Again, this is stuff for you to play with. There is an oven in here, which I do like, because as I say, if creatures get trapped in here, they take 1d6 fire damage per round. Again, we're playing back to the idea of Hansel and Gretel. You know, this is a great feel to this. Again, rack of ribs, lucky clovers you consume, you're going to gain a luck token, a fade leaf. You're going to gain advantage on checks to move on for 1 round, or 1 hour, sorry. But yeah, there's like lots of little things like this, and there is quite a bit of stuff, and it's not all like, oh yeah, this is going to be good. There's some potions in here, which is going to be healing potion stuff, but it's only going to heal like 1 or 2 points of damage done to you. But then there's also like another drink which could do a lot of basically send you into like a nightmare spiral again, which is interesting. So, oh yeah, in the pantry as well, there is several things in the pantry. One of them is going to be a secret door, which is going to lead to the bathroom. I'll show you again on this map. So here's the pantry, the secret door is here, and then it leads into the bathroom. Otherwise, if you don't find that, they're going to go all the way around here. But then in the pantry room, there is a locked hatch under the floor, which we'll talk about in a minute. But as you can see, there is a key symbol in the Mugwort's quarters. I wonder what that does. So again, we're going to go into that pantry. You can find that stuff there. Now, in the witch's bedroom, you will find there is a chest. The chest is a mimic. Of course, if you think your party's taking too much damage and you don't want them to necessarily die, just maybe they're trying to learn things. Or maybe you want to like, okay, not every chest is going to be just fine. They could be trapped. And in this case, it's a mimic. Again, I do not usually like to make things easier for players because then they do not learn. I think you should just let things play out. But of course, with stuff like this, you can make it a little weaker. You make it a little tougher in terms of hit points or AC, the amount of damage they do. That stuff is up to the DM. Yeah, I do like the witch's hat. Now, there's one thing I have to say about it. So, I think there's a bit of a spelling mistake here, which is not a big deal. Not a spelling mistake, like an error in how it's worded. So, the benefit is your intelligence stat becomes 18 plus 4 when wearing this hat. I don't know if he actually meant that your intelligence goes all the way up to 18, or it can't go beyond the 18. Because if you were like a character who had like 4 intelligence, all of a sudden they become an 18. That's crazy. But I would say it's at maximum plus 4, but that'd be crazy. Even to even have a plus 4 at any sort of level, really, especially level 1. But the drawback is people may believe that you are a witch, and this may prove hazardous to your health. Now, I put that people will almost always or usually think you are a witch, and that is dangerous for the same reason. They're like, burn the witch. So as we said, the hatch that's in the pantry, which will lead to a cellar. In this cellar, it's going to be 3 rooms essentially, 4 rooms. You have the cellar, the root cellar itself. You have a spider lair, a cauldron chamber, and then you're going to have a ritual chamber. And again, you're going to have random encounter charts here, and it's going to be the same like we had before. The N is going to be based on the number of your party. So if you have 4 in your party, you're going to have 4 large spiders, and then the hungry bats and hungry rats again, but that's going to be doubled by the amount of people in your party. So you have 4, it's going to be 8. Very simple and straightforward. I do think the difficulty of this is good. I do like difficult adventures, even on first time adventures. What I always tell players is to bring more than one character always, because we can have them in the background somewhere, maybe back in the village, to continue things onward, and they can pick up where they left off. But that doesn't mean like the witch hasn't come back. Maybe like the child is no longer in the building or somewhere else in the building in a pie. I'm just saying stuff like that. That's going to be up to you to use your own imagination, and because you don't want time to stay still. Say if all the party members die, but they want to continue with this. Okay, back in the village, maybe one of your players can now be Hans, the father of the boy. He comes back, and then comes back with a hunting party. Then they go off, and you can say that's your players. Maybe one of the players can be Hans, which I think it's a good idea. Again, we have the elixir of youth, the nightmare elixir. Like I said, there is stuff in here which you can find, which is going to be more detrimental to your health. Like I said, the elixir of youth benefits, heals 2d4 hit points, and the age is 1 year. It's immune to drowsiness and sleepiness for 4 hours, which can be quite powerful, really, especially if you have any encounters with certain creatures or monsters and spells they might have. I like the leather-bound book. It's going to be an alchemical grimoire bearing the markings of Sean, Wirt 200 gold pieces. 2 elixir recipes are bookmarked. See, right? And here's your elixir recipes. When it comes to this sort of stuff, I think magical research should be implemented, and they should be able to just create this very easily. It should take time to research. That's me. You guys are like, oh, you got it. You just once you follow the instructions, you can make it in a day or two. Once you have everything, but it is cursed. So non-chaotic creatures take 1 damage per round touched or carried. I like how you put carried, because what a lot of people do is like I get like a letter, like a soft letter cover. I wrap it around it and put it in my backpack and like tie it off. But now if it's carried at all in any way, it's like the weight of it like burns your soul, which I do like. And then we have the spider layer, and then it talks about large spider again, and it talks about hands. Well, I got Hans and Fritz Smith. So Fritz is the father, Hans is the boy. So Hans is the frightening boy. He's going to be in the ritual chamber. And the key that we saw up here in the map in Mugward's quarters is there. So if your players come across the pantry and decide to go down too early, they come down here. Maybe they had a couple of canners. They end up being badly injured. Maybe they're making a lot of noise. Maybe the witch comes back in the meantime. They have to come back and then try and explore here. You know, things can get tense real quick. Again, I really do like this adventure. And it talks about the witch. The witch returns. She can return at any point. And when she does turn, she returns with 2 large spiders. Or like the number of players plus the large spiders. So again, several of them. You can adjust that as usual. And then it talks about after the aftermath of this, you can come back with the boy if you survive. Or maybe you can even escape with the boy before the witch comes back. Or escape with the boy while not killing the witch, because follow up. Auntie Rue's 2 sisters become aware of the events at Rue's cottage. They, along with Rue, if she's still alive, plot the revenge on the players and the villagers of Walham. Dun dun dun, there you go. This is what I talk about the plot and our hooks, future adventures. Very simple, elegant, and it works really well. Again, this is obviously inspired by fairy tales, particularly Hansel and Gretel. It's going off that theme, and again, it's very well put together. It's great for low-level adventures to get people into the theme of Halloween, or to introduce new players to the game, or start a new campaign. I think it's great. Again, William is becoming a very good creator in the Shadowdark community. He has obviously his Camelot one. He also has, or is it the hand against the cult of the Crimson Hand? I've played this a while ago. I'm going to look over it again before I do a review on it. But I do remember it was quite good, and this was his first ever one. Then Shadows of Camelot came out, and now this. This is, I think, is a great format and what he's doing. And actually, I talked to a couple creators, and what they're doing is they're creating like a bigger adventure, and then they're doing like one shots or 1-page dungeon stuff, a couple of them, then do an adventure. I think that's a good way to do things, because it's going to lighten the load on certain aspects, because adventures can be very difficult to do. But yeah, that's it, guys. I'll leave a link in the description where you can get this. I'll attach my affiliate link if you want to use it. If not, just pick it up. It costs very little. Even if you just want the PDF, you know, if you want to run it for your virtual tabletop or on your Discord groups or anything like that. But yeah, if you liked the video, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think, and have a good day. Have a good day, guys. I'll have to edit that. Yeah, have a good day.